Hey there! It's that time of the year when I am getting ready for the new one, and that means setting up a new bullet journal. I am finally using my blackout journal from Notebook Therapy. I distinctly remember when they approached me to give me items from their new Tsuki Ocean collection, and I was torn between the Dolphin Days and the playful Orca, because both have always been my favorite animals. And Notebook Therapy was more than kind to send me both. Around a year later, they relaunched the Orca edition, but this time they produced it with black paper, and I knew that it was meant to be my 2023 journal. And of course, I had to pair it with their black pop-up pencil case. I have been really wanting to try black paper, but was a bit intimidated by the challenge. But so far, I am loving it. Black paper opens up a whole new array of possibilities, especially because colors pop differently in this stark contrast, so you need to choose your tools well, which is why I went straight into the pen and paint test to choose my favorite. So I started with the well-known Sakura Jelly roll, the world's favorite for any paper. The white gel pen is a basic, and here I have different brands with different thicknesses. Some are brighter than the others, and I can use all of them. But for general writing, I really like how fine and smooth the Pilot Juice is. I went on to try different things like this Pilot acrylic marker, which is excellent for big drawings, and also this Pen Touch by Sakura, which I need to get a new one because this one is too old. The Sarasa from Zebra are really good for writing as well. And you can see the contrast with the jelly roll, which is a lot more thick, and therefore you need to wait longer for it to dry. I tried first my colors and some metallics from Crayola. This was one of my favorites, the Karin Deco brush. It really pops out of the page in a true metallic, like no other metallic marker can do. And then I was just trying to see how the watercolor pencil reacted. At first, you can definitely see it, but as soon as I added water, it all washed away. So, of course, I'm not going to be using those. The thing that I really loved was this Coliro Pearlescent color, which is a metallic watercolor that also pops out of the page, as you can see here, and I love using it with that fine nib. I think that technique is one of my loved ones. We have a winner here with the wash, because when you add white to any color, again, it really makes it pop out of the page, and this was definitely my favorite medium to use. I will be using this a lot. I also wanted to try pastels, but those are really difficult to use because I like to draw tiny drawings, so it didn't work. The chalk pastels looked amazing, but the problem is that they are so runny. I even tried to coat them with some protective film, but ended up ruining it, so I'm not gonna use those because they will just transfer to the next page. And as you can see, all the swatches there are from gel pens that I have collected throughout the years, and some of them are really good for this black paper, so you really are never short of things to use. Don't let that intimidate you. And now I'm doing the grid spacing guide. I always find it helpful so that I can quickly see how to divide the grid instead of counting every time. I have memorized the spaces by now, but it's always nice to have it in the back. And back to the cover, I will just add my name with this beautiful Herbin white ink, which is a delight to use with my dipping pen. I always do my name pretty simple, so it's no big deal here. And I'm going to be using that same ink to write down the key. I know it by heart, but it's nice to have it there, especially if I get asked about how the bullet journal method works. So with this, I can give them a brief tutorial on how to do it. If you're just starting, I encourage you to read the bullet journal method by writer Carol, who is the original creator, or you can watch the video where I explain how I use it. I am sticking that key to the journal using this beautiful orca washi tape by Notebook Therapy. It's from the same Ocean collection. I don't know if they still have it because it was a limited edition, but I thought it was the perfect thing to use along with this notebook. And now I am going to grab a metallic gel pen to just add the title key, not because I don't know, but just because it looks complete in this way. Let's move on to Gouache. As I mentioned before, it was a winner in the paint test. So I started here with an Art Deco header. I actually planned to line it with gold, but as I started to see that the paint looked shabby and kind of retro and a bit washed, I decided to just leave it as it is. I really love the end result. I think that also one of the advantages of black paper is that you can correct the errors that you make by scraping the paint a little bit and then just going over it with a black marker, as you will see me do in a bit right here. But yeah, the shades that I got and how the wash looks is definitely something that I will be using throughout these pages. And you see me here using that Fudebiyori pigment marker, which is amazing. It really wowed me. I think it's the best with that cool chalk-like finish. And speaking about the quote, this one really fits the theme and my life right now. Waves have always amazed me, and the comparison here of us falling but rising shows our capability of always being able to rise again. Proud yet humble enough to accept that we might fall again, and we'll have the strength to get up with resilience. And here I'm drawing an orca. It's been a habit of mine to be inspired by the notebook itself or the initial setup. So this one took me to my childhood when I was obsessed with orcas. So much so that for a while it was the only animal that I drew all over the place. I will tell you a little story of mine. In Mexico, we had a water park where an orca performed. His name was Keiko. And now that I know his story and the way orcas are miserable in water tanks, my heart breaks for them all. But back then, it was a dream come true to see him so close. And then I also met Shamu in San Antonio SeaWorld and was mesmerized seeing more than one in action. But like I said, I was too young to realize that those animals were suffering in a place that was not meant for them to live, because they cannot thrive and they are just suffering all along. But back to the setup for more positive things. The watercolors that I use throughout it all are pearlescent colors from Coliro, which are simply magical, and paired with the Fudebiyori marker, which you can layer to give it shade. This combination made the orcas seem so real in the shadow, but when light hits them, it's like they are jumping out of the page. So I really, really love this combo, and the best part is that I got all the materials in the same store where I live. So if you live in Mexico, I will link it all below. For this first orca, I used the color Mermaid from the Magical Creatures palette, and for the coral details, I used the color Bronze from the Vintage palette. You can get the colors on their own as well, but in my opinion, those two palettes are all I need. And of course, I am adding some nice details with a Prismacolor, which is just meant to give a little bit of texture. Here I'm showing you what I was talking about, how it looks like a normal orca, but as soon as the sun hits it, it starts to look blue turquoise and alive. So I'm in love with these watercolors on the black paper. The next spread is the year at a glance, which is simply a full calendar of the year. I always add it in my journals because it's really useful when planning, and I always write it all by hand just because I love the look of handwritten numbers. Of course, you can always print one and paste it on the page. As for me, even when my hand cramps, I like to take the time to do it myself. I wish I could be as fast as this time lapse, but all in all, I'm glad I get to do it and I didn't make any mistakes this time around. For the layout here, I went for the calendar and a quote. I really wanted to draw as many orcas as I could just because I love them so much. So I added her next to this phrase that I had already used in my 2021 journal, and I really love it. It reads, "Sometimes in the waves of change we find our true direction." So many of us are kind of reluctant sometimes to accept change when it seems to be a negative change, but I feel that it always opens a door that we didn't know existed. I personally have been trying to switch my mindset and accept changes as they are and as they come and adapt. It does make life a lot simpler and less painful. I know that life tends to shock us, but with time, we understand why things happen, and that's when we are delightfully surprised and grateful that it happened that way. So anyway, for the art here, I am again using Gouache and the Coliro Dragon Color. A fun fact about this Magical Creatures palette is that if I were using them on white paper, it would come out as a totally different color. So if you have the opportunity to try this, it would be awesome to invest on those because they last a long time and they simply look beautiful on any paper. And now I'm gonna speed up through those waves that kind of took a long time to draw so that we can get to the final result. Truth is that I'm still learning to handle Gouache, but the good thing about black paper is that it really shows in a nice way without having to work too much on it. So I'm just adding the final corals here, and again you can see how it changes in the sun and how amazing the effect is. It's truly become one of my most favorite techniques today. It all looks lovely together. Having said that, let's move now to the next collection, which is the index. It's usually just a simple frame, and here I tried to add some Art Deco corners with a dipping pen and the bronze watercolor. I really love the way this theme turned out. It's like a shabby chic, sloppy Art Deco style, which goes really well with the marine life. And so of course I had to add a baby orca for it to fit the whole theme. And I used the color Medusa for this one. The index is always helpful for your future self, especially if you add collections, which you will most probably reference in the future. And I usually use just one page for it, but this time around, when I also added this drawing here, I wanted a 2-page spread so that it won't look as crowded as my indexes have always been. Here you can see how even in the shadow this watercolor looks like a shade of pink, but again it changes into a beautiful sky blue. Now perhaps you already know that you set the bullet journal 1 month at a time, So the future log is where all future events and tasks live. Again, if you're just starting, read the book or watch my video to understand how it works. For the headers with the days, here I use the Karin Deco brush markers, which are amazing. The pigment is so rich and the stroke is kind of shy, so it gave the pages the shabby look that I was going for. This is the second time that I write by hand all those numbers, just because I love how it looks. And by the way, the font that I was inspired by for this setup is called Oceania from dafont.com. I always go there to find inspiration and then try to copy it by eye. Moving on to my routine spread, this has become the cradle of my healthy lifestyle. It honestly starts here with the reminders of what I should be doing to start and end the day so that I can properly function. And this might be my favorite drawing of them all. The orcas interacting with a girl pictures one of my dreams, which is to swim with them, but also the tranquility I aim for when practicing these routines. It's always best to have consistency throughout the days, and honestly, it's something that I am still trying to master, but seeing the good results is always the best incentive. So I am thinking I might be adding a daily tracker with a monthly reward to check how well I am doing with my routines. For the orcas here, I use the colors Sphinx, which is this first one, and for the other, I used Unicorn. And it might not be obvious, but I painted the big coral, which you will see in the bottom, with the rose gold watercolor from the Vintage palette. So the things that I include here, to give you some examples, are morning rituals like dry brushing, oil pulling, stretching, drinking water, having my supplements, exercising, and for the night, again taking supplements, which by the way, I take so many that I really need a list so that I won't forget one. And then there's also winding down without the cell phone, which honestly, I am very bad at doing that. I have to really put my cell phone in another room to achieve this goal. So in the end, it's really about finding a routine that works for you and do your best to stick to it. Honestly, I have seen the benefits and the good results of following one, and so it's definitely worth the effort, and why this spread might be among the most important ones in my bullet journal, because it does help me improve my overall energy, mood, health, and sleeping time. Sleeping is among the most important things that as humans we need, and I feel that it's totally underrated. So it's another thing that I want to be better at. Sleep early, to wake up early and have the sufficient rest that I need to work throughout the day. The next spread is one that will stay blank for now. I have been adding this one to the past 3 journals, and I just love doing it. It puts me in a good mood just by looking at it. It's called My Happy Place, and I fill it with drawings of the activities that would make up a perfect day. It also serves as a ready-made plan for one of those days when you are free to do whatever you want. So it's always exciting to put it together and to look at it whenever I need to. And for this one, I might end up drawing orcas, performing the tasks that I love. We'll see. The rest of the spreads are basic collections that I have also been adding to my latest journals, starting with the Gouache. I live in a hurricane-prone area, so having a go bag always makes me feel safer and ready. Actually, wherever you live, it's always smart to have one, because you really never know when you might need it, so it's always great to have it. The waiting for collection has always helped me track my deliveries. It allows me to see when it is time to contact the brand because of delays or to manage returns and refunds. And I think I'm also going to divide this in months and add a limit to the shopping I can do so that I can fulfill a sort of no expense challenge each month and save for more important things. Having said that, this jumping orca is my second favorite out of them all. The one that I last spread has helped me keep track of the things that must be done and are repetitive throughout the year. From haircuts to payments or house maintenance, this is really useful if you tend to realize too late that you should have paid the gas earlier. The master to-do list is one that I added recently, and I write the things I have to do in general, but also small projects or ideas that pop in my mind and that I would forget if I don't write them down. Time to jump to the back of the journal where I will be adding the year wheel. For those who don't know, this is where I draw small doodles of each month's highlights so that at the end of the year I have a cool parade of small drawings featuring the best moments of the year. The last spreads are spaces for video ideas. If you have any requests, let me know in the comments. And a fun, interesting challenge that I got from Karin's channel. It consists of a 52-week challenge throughout the year. You are to make an extra spread in your journal, starting with a word of the year, an all about me chart, going through bucket lists and other fun challenges, and ending with a year in review. The point is to keep yourself motivated and creative. I will link it all below if you want to join as well. I almost forgot to paste the orca that I made prior to the setup when I was swatching mediums, and I just fell in love with the Coliro watercolors. I knew I had to use this little orca, and you can't really tell that I pasted it. Black paper is really slick to work with. Wow, that's it. Yearly setups are always among my longest videos because there's so much to say. And I love this one because working with black paper was a new challenge, one that I got to enjoy and love because the theme is really close to my heart. So I hope that you enjoy watching me drawing these magnificent creatures in a whimsical world filled with sparks and freedom. I really look forward to start using it in about a month. 2023 is certainly going to be better than this year. I can't wait for all the experiences and changes that it will bring into my life. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you subscribe for more if you like my style. And if you have been watching for a while, thank you so much for all your support and all your comments. They really keep me motivated and going. For everyone watching this, I hope that this year has a smooth end for you and that you start the next one with all the energy and excitement that new beginnings hold for those who keep a positive outlook. I really appreciate you all being here, so as I sit right in this script and feeling truly grateful, I want to say for the millionth time and as usual, thank you so much for watching.